Lapras review.
Hey!
So, Lapras Raid Day is coming tomorrow. By the time you're seeing this, Lapras would have started appearing in practically every single gym, starting in India, the Middle East, and then on to Europe and Africa, and then North and South America, and then to the Asia Pacific region. Now, if you want to know when it is in your own local time, it's basically 25th of May, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. in your own local time. It's for the Middle East, Africa, and Europe, as well as North and South America. In the Asia Pacific region, we will be doing it on the 26th of May. Same time, again 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. I know for the more experienced players who have been playing Pokemon Go for a while would know how to defeat a Lapras. Lapras at one point was a gym defender. It's not really a meta-defining gym defender, but I think most people who have played Pokemon Go for at least a year should know how to beat a Lapras in Pokemon Go, especially with the PvP tournaments as well as Sentosa Safari Zone. Lapras has been pretty widely available these past few months especially, but just for the benefit of the newer players who have just started getting into Pokemon Go, or just people who don't know much about the Pokemon Go battle system in general, that's what this video is for, to guide those new players or slightly less experienced players on how to appropriately beat a Lapras in Pokemon Go. Lapras will likely be in Tier 4 raid in Pokemon Go. I'm pre-recording this right now, so it might be different from Gengar Raid Day. Gengar was Tier 4. I don't know what it would be for Lapras. I think it would be Tier 4 as well for Lapras, but nonetheless, it would take about 5 trainers to take on a Lapras comfortably within the time limit. So without further ado, let's go over Lapras's counters and weaknesses. Lapras is a water and ice type, meaning it will be weak to fighting, electric, rock, and grass type attacks. When thinking of the top tier electric and fighting type attackers, of the few that come to mind will be Zapdos, Raikou, Machamp. Those top tier attackers in the electric and fighting type department. Zapdos is currently one of the best attackers in terms of electric type DPS, but there's still some other options for those of you who have not got your Zapdos. Zapdos is a legendary Pokemon, it's pretty hard to get your hands on. So Raikou would work, although Raikou is another legendary and pretty hard to actually get a hold of. Apart from those two, there are other good options as well, like Electivire with Thunder Shock and Wild Charge. Definitely a title contender for one of the best electric type DPS attackers in the game. Luxray and Magnezone are two new additions to the Sinnoh Pokemon we have in the game right now, especially with Magnezone being a pretty new and recent addition. It's a pretty interesting Pokemon, and I think it's pretty worthwhile using on a Lapras here. In terms of fighting types, of course, Machamp comes out on top as usual. Machamp is one of the top tier fighting type attackers, a premier pick in the fighting type department, but for those who don't have decently powered up Machamps, Hariyama would make a good substitute, especially with its bulk. It would have pretty good TDO overall. Its DPS probably not the best we've seen, but its HP stat is pretty good and definitely very valuable for its bulk. Lucario, yes, Lucario is a pretty valuable fighting type, especially with that steel type resisting Lapras's ice type moves. Lucario brings a really useful asset with that steel typing. If you're lucky enough to hatch a Riolu from a 10k or 7k, and lucky enough to afford a Riolu, definitely Riolu will be a valuable piece of the metagame, especially for the fighting types right there. Now, for those of you who did attend Torture Community Day, we have Blaziken with Counter and Focus Blast, definitely a useful counter for Lapras. For those of you who did manage to unlock a third move on your Blaziken, definitely Focus Blast would be one to consider when taking on Lapras raids. You might want to be careful when sending in Blaziken, because Lapras does learn a considerable amount of water type moves, including Surf and Hydro Pump, and Blaziken being pretty frail, it's pretty much a glass cannon, you wouldn't want to be sending those on super effective water type moves. So just be wary of that. Now, in terms of the grass types though, you want to be careful when facing Lapras with double ice type moves, because grass types will take super effective from Lapras's ice type moves. But if you want some good recommendations, Sceptile, Roserade, Leafeon all make very good choices. Alternatively, if you want more tanky grass types, more bulky ones, you can use a Venusaur or a Tangrowth. It's basically a pick your poison kind of thing. If you want more bulk, definitely Venusaur and Tangrowth. If you want more DPS, definitely Sceptile and Roserade are the way to go. Now, in terms of the rock types, you also want to be careful of Lapras's water type moves, because those water type moves will hit hard on the rock types being super effective. But Tyranitar would be your go-to for the rock types, especially with the bulk, the offenses, and the DPS. Smackdown and Stone Edge, I'm aware, is an exclusive move. It's a community day move for Tyranitar. So for those lucky few who have a Smackdown Stone Edge Tyranitar, it's definitely a pretty useful asset when taking on a Lapras Raid. Unless you're going up against a Lapras with water-type moves, Tyranitar is a pretty good pick. Apart from Tyranitar, we also have Rampardos with Smackdown and Rock Slide. It definitely has really good DPS, especially with Rampardos' attack stat of 295, currently the 4th best in the game in terms of its base attack. Rampardos is pretty decent and worth sending in if you want the straight up raw power and raw DPS. Now of course Lapras, as I've just said earlier, is not really that meta defining in terms of its ice type moves. You'll be getting the double legacy move of Ice Beam and Ice Shard, I believe. Now in terms of its attacking prowess, unfortunately Lapras is not the best out there. It is outpaced by its fellow ice type brethren like Mamoswine and Glaceon. Glaceon especially, I'll put a chart about here where I pitch a Lapras, Mamoswine, and Glaceon against a level 30 Dragonite with perfect IVs and Dragon Tail and Outrage. As you can see, Lapras is severely outpaced by Mamoswine in terms of DPS, severely outpaced by Glaceon in terms of TDO. Overall, it is not good in terms of its attacking prowess. It may see some use in PvP, but I highly doubt that will be happening anytime soon. Now in terms of its water-type moves, Lapras is also pretty outclassed by some other water-type attackers like Gyarados, like Milotic, like Vaporeon even. Vaporeon deserves the title of one of the bulkiest water types in the game, behind Milotic. Even with max IVs, Lapras is still pretty outclassed by Gyarados. I pitched him up against a Rock Throw Stone Age Golem in this case, and yeah, even though Gyarados is weak to Golem's rock type attacks, it still does pretty well actually. The DPS of Gyarados is sky high. Lapras isn't a very good attacker in raids, in gyms. It may see a bit of use in PvP, but unless Niantic pulls a miracle on Lapras, we're unlikely to see any significant change in terms of its PvP, gym, or raid usage. Nonetheless, Lapras Raid Day is certainly a time you would not want to miss out on because you might get a chance to find a shiny Lapras.
Hey!
If you want to just keep it as a collector's item, by all means keep it as a collector's item, especially if you have a shiny Lapras with the double legacy moveset. But in my opinion, Lapras is just like the bottom of the barrel. It's the leftover bad stuff that, you know, Gyarados, Mamoswine, Glaceon have left behind. I hope those of you new players are now better informed of how to beat Lapras in raids and what to do with your Lapras, and hopefully I managed to give you a bit more insight on how Lapras performs as well. So yeah, I'm going to be signing off right now. This has been TaeganAdventures, and I shall see you in the next episode. Peace out.